Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAN.
The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat al-Qaeda. Yet his death does not mark the end of our effort.
President Obama last night on the news that Osama bin Laden is dead, killed by U.S. forces. Navy SEALs is being reported in Pakistan at a compound some 60 miles north of Islamabad. Brian Neiman, Jim Pethokoukis from Reuters and from CNBC in this morning. Pleased to be joined now by KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst. Well, this is it. This is the beginning.
It's a great day.
It really is. So, give us your thoughts, your initial reaction about how the whole thing went down.
Oh, I mean, I think God bless the U.S. the U.S. SEALs. They really did an amazing job. And frankly, credit goes to President Obama. I've been quite critical of things he's done in the past, but this is a gutsy move. This could have gone the same way that the Jimmy Carter's rescue mission went in 1980 when he sent the U.S. military and some helicopters into Tehran to try to rescue American diplomats who were held hostage. And it was a colossal failure, and it spelled the end of the Carter presidency. So I think Obama, deserves some thanks and some credit for doing this well.
In the real estate world, it's location, location, location. In the terrorism world, it's intelligence, intelligence, intelligence.
Absolutely.
And we finally got it seems.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not sure about the coincidence of this, but it sounds like we started getting better intelligence about the time David Petraeus took over in Afghanistan.
The name that has not been mentioned, I think, very much yet in this whole thing is David Petraeus. I mean, we know when a guy leaves a job, you like to, clear out your desk, but man, he really cleared out his desk with this one.
Well, and I was with him last week. I was in Afghanistan about 10 days ago and spent a lot of time with General Petraeus. I just talked to the Petraeus' office this morning via email, and they stopped what they were doing. They delayed his normal morning briefing to listen to the president's speech, and they're all pretty happy over there.
All right, so bin Laden's hiding out in this compound.
In a suburb of Islamabad. That's like a suburb of Washington.
All right, suburb of Islamabad, a compound that's $1 million to build, 18-foot high walls, barbed wire. The people who live there burn the trash. Are we saying that Pakistan had no idea Osama bin Laden was in there?
That does not look good.
And not only that, but the neighborhood that he was in is like a lot of retired military. So absolutely they knew he was
All right,
there.
so what does that tell us about Pakistan?
But I don't think there's anything new. They've been hedging their bets throughout. The Pakistanis, they're the guys who created the Taliban. And so they've been hedging their bets. They want to make sure that whoever takes over in Afghanistan is a real friend of Pakistan's. So how do they do that? They do that because they're nice to the Americans. They get money and aid from the Americans. They look like they try to cooperate they try to let us think they're cooperating over Afghanistan war and on the Taliban, but at the same time, they provide safe haven to al-Qaeda and the senior Taliban leadership.
I mean, wasn't President Bush's doctrines that we will not tolerate nation states sheltering terrorists?
Yeah, we should.
Isn't that what Pakistan was doing? They were sheltering the worst terrorists in history.
Yeah, but we never seem to be able to be tough with them. I think it's a great sign of what's happened. But here's what I think is the significance of it. You're going to now potentially see a big ripple effect. I mean, not only is this looking at making America look good, we did this amazing military operation. We got the bad guy finally. It's almost like the curse has been lifted that's been on America for the last decade. But in the part of the world that we're fighting, Afghanistan and in Pakistan, these guys, they don't like underdogs. We always support.
They like the strong horse.
They want to make sure they're on the winning side. They've been sitting on the fence through this entire war. Will they now decide, the tide has turned, America back in the saddle, America may prevail. Maybe what we need to do is make sure that we're on America's side, and maybe what we do is help go after the safe havens of the Taliban that are in Pakistan. I think the big thing I want to see today, how does the Pakistani government react? Do they say, hey, we helped the Americans, we were in this right from the start? Or do they say, America invaded our sovereign territory?
I think there's going to be precious little tolerance from that, because I think Americans are beginning to realize this morning that something extremely fishy was going on in Pakistan. That if not for this sort of official sheltering to some degree, it may have not taken 9.5 years to get Osama bin Laden.
That's our reaction, but the question is, what is the Pakistani reaction? I think the other thing that we're going to see, though, is an increase in terrorism, because two things will happen. The guys who are left in Al-Qaeda Prime, as they call it, as the original Al-Qaeda, they're going to want to show the world that they're still relevant, that they can survive the death of the founder. So they're going to try to look and see if there's any terrorist attack they can do lickety-split. The other thing is, though, that all the Al-Qaeda franchises that have set up shop around the world, particularly in Yemen and other places in cyberspace, they're all going to now vie for leadership. They're all going to want to say, I'm the heir of Osama bin Laden. And so I think that they will now try to outdo each other for terrorist attacks. And where are they going to go? They'll go in soft targets, which means civilian areas.
Well, we've talked about before whether or not it's bin Laden or Anwar al-Awlaki, who, of course, was in Northern Virginia and now in Yemen, who was more, a threat to the United States. And, I mean, you could, flip a coin on that. But I do want to ask you, KT, since bin Laden was captured near Islamabad and around, military people and in an urban area, do you think that he was very active? I mean, it seems to me like, he's probably in some cave somewhere, just a figurehead. But do you think that he was an active part of the Al-Qaeda network in planning new attacks?
Well, if you just look at the evidence of what's happened, Al-Qaeda, if they could have done a big one after September 11th, they certainly would have done a big one. And if you remember back 10 years ago, and I live in New York City, we always assumed that the next one was just right around the corner. So I think if they had been able to do it, they would have done it. For example, get their hands on a dirty bomb, have some kind of an attack on the subway stations in New York, but they haven't been able to do it. So I think that all intelligence indicates, everything I've read, that they have been seriously degraded over these last few years. The other thing that's happened is, when I was in Afghanistan last week, the briefings I got indicated that what our forces had done was target mid-level Taliban. That the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are different. They're different organizations, but they're like kissing cousins to each other. They cooperate with each other, and they meet with each other, and they coordinate things. What our strategy has been was to target and take out the mid-level management of the Taliban, so that the Taliban has 3 levels of management. The low-level guys in Afghanistan who are paid $10 a day, who are just doing it because it's a job. The top-level management, which was in Pakistan, having tea with Osama bin Laden, they just stay in Pakistan and give orders, and then the middlemen go back and forth over the border. If what's happened now is that we've sufficiently degraded the middleman capacity through the drone attacks in Pakistan, they're not going to be able to fight as big a fight in this spring fighting offensive. And if that happens, 3-4 months from now, it looks like the Taliban was unable to reclaim the initiative, then I think that we've now then turned a real corner.
So this could be much more than a symbolic victory getting bin Laden.
It could be a big thing. And the other thing is that what it does is, what does it say to all the uprisings in the Middle East right now? There are 2 narratives going on. If you're a young Muslim youth, who doesn't have a job and you don't like your government, you want to overthrow it and demonstrate, whether you're in Syria or Egypt or Tunisia or Libya, you've had 2 versions that 2 narratives. One would be Osama bin Laden, jihadist warrior Islamist. The other was self-government, self-rule. And what's now happened is that the Osama bin Laden narrative is just taking a real hit, and America is looking better.
But his popularity has been on the wane in recent years throughout the Middle East, hasn't it?
Yeah, because he hasn't done anything. Again, it's a part of the world where they always want to back the winner.
All right, before we let you go, the disposal of the bodies reported that it was disposed at sea.
Yes.
Do you think that was a good move, and why do you think
Yes, I think it was an excellent move. The Muslim faith says you have to bury the body within 24 hours. And so we wanted to respect that religious tradition, so deal with it in 24 hours. We apparently offered the body to the Saudis, and they said, no, thank you. Had we buried it somewhere, then it would have been a shrine.
Why would we offer the body to the Saudis?
I think we're trying to be really nice to the Saudis. And remember, Osama bin Laden is originally Saudi.
I know that.
Knowing that they wouldn't accept?
Well, giving them the opportunity to turn it down.
All right. Well, great to talk to you, as always, and especially on a day like this. Thank you very much for talking with us, KT.
Thanks, guys.
We'll talk to you soon. KT McFarland, Fox News National Security Analyst. Continue with your reaction to the death of Osama bin Laden, killed by U.S. forces, Navy SEALs in Pakistan.